Welcome to the MFS Wellness Podcast, a hybrid structure encompassing health, fitness, self-improvement, and entertainment, where no topic is off limits and all opinions are graciously welcomed.
Let's get on with the show!
And now, here's the host of the show, Mike Sinopoli.
Welcome to the MFS Wellness Podcast. I am Mike Sinopoli, certified nutrition coach, consultant, counselor, call me whatever you would like. On this episode, I have decided to go ahead and make it a Q&A. I took to Instagram and I left a few links out there, one anonymous, one non-anonymous, to ask any questions that people would like to hear on the show. And I have about 6 or 7 of them here that I'm going to go ahead and go with and talk about. I'm excited to do this. Remember, this is all in fun. Just because I'm hosting a Q&A episode doesn't mean I've got all the answers or know everything. I did a little research on myself for some of them because they were such great questions and I wanted to learn a little bit. So I get to learn a little bit. Maybe you do. Maybe you hear something I say that you disagree with. You can always hit me up on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook, handles at MFS Wellness. So at any time you want to jump in, ask me a question, put a podcast idea out there, come on the podcast. I'm going to start hosting guests on my podcast probably for 2023, have some discussion any which way where we can talk about health, wellness, fitness, mental health, emotional health, life in general, what we're doing here on this planet. Things like that really motivate me right now at this time in my life. And I do believe that is going to be the rest of the way for me is really taking every second, every option that I have available to me, every moment, and just kind of make sure that I'm doing my most with it as best I can. Again, that's going to take a lot of work. It takes a lot of work for all of us to really find a solid direction that we're in. And sometimes it's just an ongoing battle throughout life. But either way, not to get too off topic, we have a Q&A episode here. And I'm going to go through and answer exactly like I said, whatever people put out there, I will answer. It doesn't have to be health or wellness or fitness related. It could be anything. I will answer any question. And like I was saying before, you have my handles. I'll read them again at the end of the show. I have no limit whatsoever to a topic. I will answer anything. Nothing is untouchable on this show for me to talk about, or you if you come on it, or to ask. So never feel embarrassed, threatened, worried, or anything of the sort to ask me a question. And if I don't know the answer, I will do my best to find out for you. So let's just get right into it here. The first question that was sent to me, and I'm going to keep these all anonymous for the show just because I didn't ask anybody's permission to use their name or anything of the sort. Not that I think they'd care, but I'm just going to go ahead and leave it anonymous. So the first question was my thoughts on obesity in children. So it was that's kind of a vague question. I mean, obviously it's concerning. Obesity in kids. I have 2 daughters myself who I'm definitely aware and critical of what they're eating here and there. Not too critical to where I'm, depriving them, because as a parent, it's two ways. How do I go about this? It's the eternal struggle. Do I just push my kids for what's best, real food, vegetables, fruits, start introducing protein to them, limit the amount of processed garbage that they eat, the sugars, refined crap? It is hard in society when kids get a taste of that candy, of that donut, of that cake, of that cookie. There's just sometimes they don't have that mentality to say, okay, wow, this tastes good, but I better slow down because this is going to cause obesity in me. And down the road, when I'm 68 years old, I'm going to have some sort of heart condition because of this, or type 2 diabetes. They don't know that. They don't have the reasoning for that. It doesn't work because of where their brains are. They just think that tastes good. I want more of that. And anyone that stands in their way of it is basically a demon to them. You're hindering me from my sugar. That's sort of how these kids probably think. I have tried to instill that in my kids. They do get it. They kind of understand the idea. We're at the bargaining stage sort of where they'll be like, oh, hey, if I have some of this broccoli or if I have this apple, can I have a piece of candy afterwards? And then, typically I'll be like, yeah, that's fine. Because I kind of like the habits that I've instilled so far in them to where, they're not avoiding the candy. There's plenty of adults that still don't, but they are asking to have something healthy first, to eat well first, and then treat themselves afterwards, which I just think is a good mindset to go into life with right away, because as you have a better chance of potentially filling up on that food that's a little bit better. So I always recommend eating the healthier option first to my kids, and I kind of take that route myself when I'm eating. I'll fill my first plate at a buffet with salad and meat and vegetables. I'll on a plated plate, I'll go for my vegetables first, and then my meat, and then my potatoes, and that kind of order. Not that they're healthier or unhealthier, but I just want to make sure that I get the good stuff in first. So that's what I'm trying to do for them at this age and stage. Obesity in kids is genetic. Of course, there's genetics to play a role, and there's also bad habits. I mean, you can sort of tell, hey, heavier family, maybe it's partial genetics, but I do believe a lot of it does come from diet, and genetics is a major excuse people use to keep on eating poorly. So as far as obesity in children go, it can be an irresponsibility by the parents. They have to catch that. They have to see that their kid is growing the wrong way, growing in the unhealthy way. Those kids can get picked on in school. Again, we're dealing with children here. Weight management amongst kids is that you set them up for maybe a hard time in school. And it's sad that I have to say that. It shouldn't be. We should treat our kids not to bully anybody, whether they're heavy set, acne, short, tall. It doesn't matter. I just don't think we should be bullying anybody, but it happens. And, that's, one of the other aspects of obesity that we're in kids that we're not really talking about enough, because we just expect to stop the bullying. Unfortunately, just anti-bullying and all that, which I very much support, doesn't ring true with every kid, and they don't hear it because they are kids, and they're going to cut deep. And weight is one of the first things that a simple mind can see. Adults do it too. When you resort to physical insults of people, that's a lesser mind to me. Sometimes we get away with, we get away from ourselves, and we do that, and that's what happens with kids. So I think that obesity in kids is irresponsible in a way that the parents have to take over that when they start seeing it happening, and they have to make changes for their kids. And it's a challenge. It's a challenge to do that. So I think it needs to be a balance. Like I'm going to preach a lot about, not that I'd like to preach, but balance is everything. And again, keeping kids, 75, 80% healthy eating, and then giving them that cake at birthday parties, juice boxes at only events. That's kind of what we do. I don't keep a lot of sugary drinks in my home at all, but I will let them maybe have one at a birthday party, something like that, and don't want it to become a daily habit. That's kind of the whole route that long-term lifestyle changes will be like. So that's where I start with my kids. That's what I believe is best for them. Give them just enough without depriving them, and instill the habits as best you can and drill them in. That's the only thing you can do. Eventually they'll be adults and make their own decisions. So that's what I think about obesity in children. It's definitely becoming an issue with what's marketed to them. And that the food corporations will do you no favors. They put cartoon characters, colorful things up in the packaging, and they make those things just to hit those kids' bliss points, so you keep buying more and more. They don't want your kids dead, but they want them to keep eating their crap, which will eventually kill them in the long run if it becomes too excessive. Okay, so that was question one. And then the next question was regarding seed oils that we consume. Now, I never really got too into concern with seed oils. Again, and there's so much information on the internet. There's just so much, this is good, this is bad. Oh, now this is good, now this is bad. It's ever changing, and it's just constant that, like, who knows what's what. So, the science is changing all the time. We have to remember that. Seed oil can be hydrogenated with trans fats. So that's something you got to look for. There's an importance to balance omega-6 and omega-3s within the oils. Not enough omega-3s could lead to inflammation, which leads to other health problems. I still think it's a dosage thing with these sort of things, with these seed oils. So I just say that with anything else that may be negative to your health, for instance, you can see it's a long-term process. Like the low amount of omega-3s, high omega-6s leads to inflammation, which leads to another disease. So over consuming these oils can kind of lead to an inflammation issue, which can go on to lead for more health problems. You can catch this pretty early by just simply, not eating and consuming too much of the bad oils that they call them. I have a list here that I pulled up, and to go with different oils, just to kind of give you an idea. There's the non-processed cold press stuff is usually the best one to go. That's your olive oil, avocado oil, peanut oil, butter, walnut oil, flax oil, sesame. things like that. Almond oil, coconut oil, those are typically pretty good to go with from what I've researched. Limiting uses of peanut oils, refined avocado, refined coconut. Also on the list. Do not eat soy. This is do not eat, it says, but I believe, in small doses. Soy oil, sunflower oil, canola oil, corn oil, things of the sort. Fake whipped creams, fake butter spreads, margarine, nuggets. It's basically a lot of crap food, processed crap. So it just kind of goes back to like traditional, how should I eat? What's the best way to eat? Avoid the processed, that more heavily processed stuff, including oils. I think there's, you don't have to totally avoid them and like go at restaurants and request everything cooked plain. And you can definitely get away with eating some of this stuff. People have eaten poor diets with these types of seed oils inside of them and been completely fine. So per usual, it's a dosage thing. If you limit it, just like anything else, limiting your sugars, limiting your high calorie days, I think you'll be fine. But there are lists out there to where the science is at, so which oils are better than other. So you can go ahead and look that up. And that's really where I'm at with seed oils right now. I'm not going to get too into them and like demonize them and go crazy with it. I just say keep it moderate. Go with the better stuff more often. Occasionally go with the stuff that's less ideal according to the current science. Okay, so that's seed oils. Next up, we have a question. Do you have cats? I do not have cats. I have 2 dogs who bark a lot and are adorable, and I love them. But I am going to tell you here, they're 11 years old. Forgot if I just said that, but this will be my last run with pets for quite some time. I did grow up with a cat. We brought her home in October of 1995, which would have made me about 12 years old. And she lived at my parents' house until May of 2013 when she passed away. So a solid life for a cat, had a great life, very spoiled. Her name was Jasmine. We called her Kitty. And, she was a 50-50 cat. 50% of the time she was cuddly, always sit on my lap, let me rub her belly and all that other stuff and greet you when you come to the door. And then 50% of the time I think she was plotting to murder me. And she would hide and look at me and stare at me in an evil way. Sometimes she would try to claw and bite me. We had her declawed, so those efforts went for naught for her. But overall, she was a sweet cat. We miss her, and no regrets on that. Definitely an easier pet to take care of. If you are listening, as a dog owner and cat owner in my life, if you want a pet and you do not want a lot of responsibility, consider a cat. Please. They shit in a box. They don't bark at a falling leaf outside and wake everybody up in the house. And, they do keep to themselves. So if you need some alone time, they won't be right up your ass. Have to wait and go outside. And if you do need a companion, they'll also come and sit on your lap. It depends on the cat. So it's a cool animal to have as a pet. And if I ever did get another pet, I'm pretty sure I would get a cat later on in life. So I did have cats. I do not have cats. I have dogs, and that's where I stand with pets. Okay, the next question asks about the use of steroids in teenagers. Now, I don't care how old you are. If you're using anabolic steroids or any sort of needle for physique enhancement, I disagree with it. I find it as a sort of cheating. I don't think teenagers should be even doing a thing with anything needle related, to be honest with you, whether that be a drug, even tattooing themselves at a younger age. I can see being an issue. A lot of people who have gotten tattoos when they were younger, regret it in their youth, from their youth, I should say. But going back to the steroids and needles in general, there's really not a lot of good needles needed unless you need it for medicine of any sort, some type of insulin. But other than that, if you think about it, with steroids, when you put that needle in you, and this is teenagers, adults, anybody, when you put that needle in you, that needle owns your results. You will not keep up your physique without keeping up the drug. Okay, it's like a high protein diet, hey, you want to keep up your muscle mass, you eat high protein as a regular lifestyle. Well, now the needle has become part of your lifestyle if you would like to keep up that physique. And what's good is going to come of that. You either have to stay on these steroids, or you're going to have to accept yourself shrinking from going off of it. And you might end up with some sort of health problems, enlarged hearts, whatever else can happen. whatever negatives can happen with steroids. So to me, stay away from it. Everyone, there's no reason for it. If you are just a person trying to put on some size, look, if you're starting to shoot needles, this is body dysmorphia type stuff. This is impatient. Stay patient. Build what you can. Do it natural. You don't need the needle. It's cheating. It's cheating in bodybuilding. It's cheating in sports. It's anything. It owns your results. You are not the owner of your results because you need that drug to keep going. So don't do steroids. Forget it. You don't need puffy cheeks, acne, and all that other weird side effects that come with it that is very obvious to people when you look like a freak of nature. And, people lose respect for it. When they know you're on steroids, immediately your whole credibility just drops. At least it does for me. I don't fuck with it. Like, cool physique, man, but I'm going to go ahead and just do my best with what I've got. And I'm going to take a little creatine at times, maybe some whey protein if I feel like it, even though that stuff usually tastes like crap. But needles for teenagers, steroids for teenagers, steroids for anybody, no thanks. I highly recommend that we avoid that. All right. Next up, eating disorders in contest prep versus not having an eating disorder in contest prep. How to tell the difference when girls compete for unhealthy or wrong reasons. That is a tough question to go ahead and ask. So how would I state this eating disorder versus not? I think that you can kind of tell when somebody gets entirely too obsessed with their physique, when they are isolating themselves. They grow depressed in their off season. They have no other goals in their life but physique. They start deteriorating their own relationships because they just can't have friends and do other activities because they're just so hyper-focused on that mirror and that perfection, and it is going to drive them nuts. And then they're not going to they might not address their emotional or mental conditions either because they're too focused on their looks. And they think that's the only thing they've got. So they're going to let that meanwhile, that physique is not going to bring them what they want, that happiness, that long-term satisfaction. They need to address their emotional and mental conditions. It's a sign of body dysmorphia, and they're obsessing over their every detail. They might even think that they look a different way than they actually do. Maybe they think they're still fat. They have to lose more. They may be at like a 4% body fat for a man, and he still wants to lose more. And they turn to drug use, like we said, with the steroids. And again, when you compete, when these women go, or men, they go to on stage, they're depleted. They are just depleted. They're eating stricter than ever. They're dehydrated. They're just going on there to be judged. I'm not a fan of it. I'm not going to lie. I respect the hell out of it. I mean, for someone that doesn't have a disorder, I respect the hell out of it. For someone that truly enjoys competing in the sport of it, I don't do it for me. It's not for me because I think that fitness and health is a bigger scale than just this physique in the mirror. And I think there's just too much more around it than being judged by strangers. Like I feel like this is a you versus you thing, and not a you versus the other guy or the other girl in a bikini or a G-string who's blackout tanned under the lights and being judged by complete strangers. You put all this effort in, and you're going to let a panel of 5 or 6 people who don't know you and don't know where you've been and how you're thinking judge you and give you a trophy just on what? It's as superficial as you can get. But like I said, I respect it. I respect doing something like that, provided it's not being, overdone with drugs and obsession and losing relationships and hurting your mental health. Because at some point, where do you got to go when you hit that amazing physique? You take some great pictures, and then you have to have the acceptance. You have to have the mental and emotional acceptance that you will not look like that forever, because it's not a sustainable physique. It's not healthy to sustain a physique at that low percent body fat that's stage ready. They're going to get there's a potential of growing very depressed when you hit the off season. Yeah, you enjoy some regular eating for a little bit and you're relieved because you're eating and you gain 20 pounds in a week just because the water needs to deplete to come back into your body, and you just start hoarding on anything because you're so damn depleted. And I don't know. Again, this is just my opinion, and anyone that's listening that might be a competitor that wants to punch me right now, I understand that. I like I said, I respect it. Maybe there's some things I'm missing from it, but these are just some of my ideas of healthy versus not. A healthy person, then, like the question asked, contest prep versus how to tell when it's healthy versus not, or doing it for the wrong reasons. I think that if somebody's doing this with the awareness that it's temporary, with this, hey, you know what? I'm going to try to compete once, and I'm going to see how I do, and I'm going to see what it's about, and I want this experience. And then they have the wherewithal to know that, hey, my body's going to go back to something else that's not going to be as ripped, that's not going to be as defined after this. And you have to almost be okay with a 3rd, 4th, 5th, 10th place finish, whatever it is, if you don't get it the first time. But I think the healthy reasons would be exactly that. You're doing it for trying something new. You're interested in it. You want to just see what you can do and see if you can get to this shredded physique one time, and then kind of back off from there and go back to regular living. I came across a term called bigorexia. Bigorexia is defined by the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual as a body dysmorphic disorder that triggers a preoccupation with the idea that your body is too small or not muscular enough. So that is kind of different than, anorexia, where you're throwing up all the time because you think you're fat. This is I guess a mental condition that you're looking at your body and you're just seeing a small version of yourself, where you probably look in the mirror and you see Gumby, but to everybody else, you look like the Incredible Hulk. And you just don't see it. So this is another reason why someone would turn to drugs, and they're like, I'm not big enough. It's just, you just get used to that image in the mirror, and God forbid you see somebody that might actually be a little bigger than you too. And I've felt this way before. I've been in the gym. If you've seen me before, I have a pretty decent physique. I mean, I'm not going to win any competitions, but I'm pretty happy with how I look, all natural. And I've had moments in the gym, and I don't try to compare myself to anybody else, but it's just kind of in our nature, I think, to do so. So, even subconsciously, like, you just do it. Like, I was in the gym and there was like 3 other guys working out, and I felt like I was looking at them and I felt like I was the smallest one. And I'm just like, man, I'm so small. I gotta lift more. I gotta do more. I gotta spend more time in a surplus, all this stuff. I'm getting down on myself. I looked in the mirror with everybody. I was the biggest one of them. If you looked at our physiques, we were all in tank top. I was the most muscular of the 4 of us, yet my brain told me I wasn't. So this is a real thing. It comes in stages and levels and extremes, like any other disease or mental issue. It comes in different waves, and it comes in different things. Like, wow, I was able to catch it, and then ultimately I don't care. I was just, for some reason in that moment, I felt like I was lacking. And then I looked in the mirror and I saw the reality. And then I was like, oh, okay, well, I guess why? And then I was just like, why am I looking at myself like that? Why am I thinking of myself like that? Why am I comparing myself to these 3 strangers? And I don't know. I guess it's just a way that we're wired. We're very self-conscious, and that can come out in a lot of ways, especially through our thoughts and emotions. So, the eating disorder thing, I guess if you become obsessive with the sport and you're constantly either on season, off season, not having relationships, having a one-track life that just does just this, I think that's the wrong reasons. And I think that's the unhealthy reasons. When you turn to drugs, when you grow obsessive, when you show signs of body dysmorphia, these are all, things that if you're not at your peak physique, you're depressed. If that's a problem. Those are all the problems. If you're not at your peak physique, it's either peak physique or depression. Something has to change, and you need a balance. That's for sure. So that's my thoughts on eating disorders and contest prep. Again, to anyone listening for the 3rd time, I respect the sport. It's just not for me. Okay. Lastly, and like I said, I will answer anything, and I typically keep politics off of this podcast. But again, why not? That's what everyone wants to talk about right now, right? Isn't that what Twitter is right now? Basically, just a whole bunch of people yelling about politics and shit, mostly. At least a lot of it is. I know that. So anyways, this last question is, why are the left, and it's the left-wing American politics side, why are the left such brainwashed pussies? That is the question. And I'm going to answer this as professionally and as down the middle as I can. So if you're unfamiliar with politics, here in the United States, we have left-wing politics, also, Democrats, liberals, they're known as, and we have right-wing, which is conservative, Republican politics. And they have different ideologies, and very hot-button issues that what we're seeing right now is a lot of extremism. And that's the problem. And it seems like we have polarization happening in mass droves. I feel personally that the left, the people on the left, the liberals, the leftists, all the way to the Marxists, I believe that they are the most polarizing. They are the loudest group. They're the ones that don't really seem to have much compromise in their bodies that they allow. They kind of cling to one side, and it's all or none. And it's a lot of bashing the other side more than protecting their own views. So it's a lot of inclusion. The left is more seemingly for the communist type state where, they like to demonize the rich. They're against capitalism. They want to spread the wealth. They're pro-choice, which they're anti-gun. This is the left-wing side of things that it seems to, upset a lot of people. They seem to be very heavily into the science, where the right wing is more into the religion and the history. The left also wants to eradicate the speech from others that don't necessarily say what they think and believe. They don't echo them. They want to be in an echo chamber, and they want to be safe. And that's what happens with social media and politics. It has become this disgusting combination, which is really bad. And I'll tell you why it's so bad. So people are, and this is both sides. This isn't just the left, like the question asked. There are people on the right as well, and on all sides, in all different ways. And people are way too individualized and diverse, and to just generalize this with a brush. So please, just, I'm not generalizing here. I'm doing my best to not completely generalize. But the problem here is with social media. Think about this. Okay, before politics infiltrated social media, you had to turn on the TV, or you had to go have a conversation with somebody to talk politics. Now you have this 3x5 or 5x3 device that you could stare into, and at a click of an app, you can get, I don't know, 100 opinions in a minute or two, just by scrolling, and all different kinds of shit. Now, what happens with the screen is it dehumanizes people. We are dehumanizing each other through the screen, because what people see is nothing more than an icon and a name. They don't know that there's they know logically, but they don't know deep down that there is another human being with a lot of issues potentially on the other side, with some baggage, with some. So we dehumanize, and we don't feel like we're actually talking to an individual. You will say, many people will say more things on their phone through text than they will in front of somebody's face. It's consequence free. They can hide behind an alias. You don't even need to be yourself. You can just put a cartoon character, a fake name, and talk all the shit you want and ruin people's day, and probably ruin your own. A lot of it's projecting. A lot of it is miserable individuals who just want to yap about their own thing and be told that yes, they're right. They go places on the internet in these social media threads, and they want to be told, agreed with, and heard. And then they don't have the wherewithal or the emotional state to even handle certain people that disagree with them. I'm finding gray area to be very rare now, and compromise to be very rare. I feel as if the compromise is now looked at as hypocrisy in a way. And I think the extremism is people will even start to eat their own. If, for instance, if somebody was, pro-life or pro-choice, whichever one, but, say I'm pro-life. Okay, let's just say I'm pro-life. I'm not saying that I am, but let's just say I am. But I say, okay, you know what? I'm pro-life overall, but I do believe that if the woman's health is at risk, there was a rape or incest involved, I do believe that they should be able to get a safe, healthy abortion. If I was to say something like that, some people from the right, the religious ones especially, will come at me and tell me I'm wrong because of this. Even though 97% of the way we agree, that people are focusing in on that one thing. You're not fully with me though. And then it becomes a game within its own sides. So those two sides are battling each other, but then everyone within their own sides can sometimes seem to battle a little bit for the extremes, where you can't even come off the edge a little bit to have some sort of compromise. Don't get me wrong, some people can do it, but with strangers on a faceless, nameless app like Twitter or anywhere else, it's not doing well for people. So the left, the reason why this person that asked me about the left being so brainwashed is that it does appear sometimes that they're into certain things that just don't seem to jive too much with reality, particularly the whole trans kids thing and exposing our kids to different sexualities and gender and things like that. They don't understand, they kind of blew up with the whole George Floyd thing, with the cop thing. Again, and I'm not afraid to say it on here, I'm an avid supporter of our police force. I believe that one of the worst instances I saw was that this instance on the news of this George Floyd and this police officer, look, you can say how bad that situation was, but to demonize the entire police force and cherry pick other stories and paint them with that generalization brush, that's scary shit that they'll go that far. I don't agree with that at all. I know police officers. I know the oath they take. I know what they think about their job, and I've seen the work that they do that doesn't get broadcasted. So unfortunately, when I see someone lazily on the internet just bad-mouthing cops, they just sort of want to, that's them projecting. They feel inferior, or maybe they had a bad experience with a cop, or maybe they got a ticket last week, and they just want to just say something mean and say something negative. And then, you know what? Then the cop supporter comes in and calls them something. And then somebody else jumps in. And it's just toxic. It's just evil. And it's, I'm no saint myself. I've been in these conversations, especially when it comes to this COVID vaccination. Now, the left has also been very masked up and boosted and all these proud. I'm not for that. That's not for me. And you know what, though? I will tell you this. If you want to get boosted and vaxxed and masked and all that fun stuff, go for it. I believe it's a choice. I really do. And if you want to do it, go for it. I'm not going to congratulate you for it. And I don't think I should be shamed or not allowed places because I didn't take a shot. That's fear. And that's where I think this question comes in of why they're looked upon as a little bit of a weaker side. They also, the left, the far left, it likes to attack fitness a bit and pin the gym as toxic masculinity and all this and just crap on this stuff. I've had some left leaning people almost yell at me about, this diet stuff and not taking it seriously, but then they're all, and I'd say I don't wear masks and I don't vaccinate. They act like I'm a murderer, which, guys, what is the real issue here? What is the real issue that's killing everybody is cancer. We need to be attacking this. This is where we need our focus. How can we reduce the cancer risk, the rate? I don't care if people, I think it's great that there's more treatment for cancer, that people are maybe surviving the disease at a greater rate, but I don't think you understand that going through chemotherapy or any sort of treatment or surgeries for cancer is going to be a very pleasant experience. I'd like to personally avoid that my entire life. I know nothing's guaranteed, but this is where things start getting ugly on the internet when you're told that you need to wear this mask. And no, we don't need to wear this mask. It's been documented well. You don't need this vaccination. It's been proven that you don't need it. If you want to take it for your own self, go for it. That's how it should be. Nothing should go in your body that you don't want. And that is where we can look at the left and call them hypocrites because they have spent so much time with the my body, my choice statements, and then to be even more, to pick on them a little bit more, it's not only your body in there. Now, ultimately, I want the government out of my business. So I understand you're pro-choice. Let me decide, not the government. I get that. And in a case, I'll support that. But it does involve ending a life inside. It's the exact. Sorry, it gets hard for me to talk about this subject because it's the deliberate ending of a life inside of somebody, and to celebrate that and call it a right, I don't know about that. Look, if you want to get it done, that's you. And I don't think the government should tell you otherwise in some cases, but it is, in fact, ending a life. So my body, my choice is not all your body with that. But with the COVID vaccine. It pretty much is. So, because it's been proven it doesn't do anything for the transmission. People have been vaxxed, boosted, and they've got this COVID stuff. And we need to get back to our real lives. We need to be pushing healthy eating. We need to be pushing lifting weights, walking more, sunshine, and all kinds of other fresh air ideas in living life and relationships with people, and not isolating. This whole thing had become a giant joke after a while. COVID lost me about 6 weeks in, 4 to 6 weeks in, when the left and right began on Twitter using it as a political piece. That's when I looked at it and I said, nah, this ain't serious anymore. Because I took the first few weeks, maybe the first month of it serious, because I'd never experienced anything like that in my life before. And after I started, I woke up one morning, I'll never forget it. I was kind of wondering, like, when is this going to be over with? And I just started seeing on Twitter people, not just people, but like, politicians started to go back and forth about it. And I'm like, okay, that's what this is. And then sure enough, a month after that, the George Floyd thing happens while everyone's sitting at home, and we all run out to protest and yell at each other. And then that's where everything sort of went to shit from there. So, I'll save it all for another episode if you ever want me to do one, regarding the state of politics in the world and how just weird everything is right now. I believe it's done by design. You can call me a conspiracy theorist if you want. I just don't have a lot of faith in people in power. I've done enough research on World War II and enough reading on that to scare myself stupid from government power in the wrong hands. If you do go back and if you are skeptical of what I'm saying right now, if you want to get off the science wagon a little bit, not totally, because science is great to focus on, but if you want to go back in history, don't forget. That's why they say never forget with 9/11 and other things, but never forget the Holocaust. I mean, if you look at that instance and what happened on there, and you get into detail of it, and you start reading personal stories, it's bad. I got into it early 2021 heavily. I knew a lot about it, but I didn't really dig deep into it with documentaries and books until then. For some reason, I don't know, it fascinated me, I guess. I wanted to just learn more about it, and boy, did it depress the hell out of me. I got a book over here that I was reading, Ordinary Men, and I'm halfway through it, and it's been about 6 months since I picked it up again because it's just a hard read. It's just depressing. I've watched, I don't have the documentary names in front of me, but Night by Elie Wiesel was one of the greatest books I ever read. I use Night by Elie Wiesel, my wife and I, when we're complaining about something that is minuscule or first world pain, if you will. We say, what would Elie Wiesel say? Because I read that book and what he went through in his life, and for me to be complaining because the bowl out of the microwave burned my hands, and I'm like, what would Elie Wiesel say to that? I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. I almost slapped myself into reality of how good we have it here, and that's the thing. Why are the left such a bunch of brainwashed pussies? The answer to that is because we have it too good here in the country. You think our country is so bad? We're making it bad. Because we have it so good. We're so bored, and we have things so easy for us now with Uber Eats and Amazon and all this stuff that we don't even have to leave our house anymore. We have so much at our disposal. We're just making it so much harder for ourselves because we just have to have drama. We have to have this combativeness because we're making our own problems. Because, you go to another country that has real problems, some third world countries, you come back here, you'll be like, okay, this ain't that bad. I'm telling you, even though we have a guy named Joe Biden, who probably isn't even the real president, who's just standing there making us all look dumb. But even so, you're gonna have that. And that's why everyone's so upset with the left and the right, is because we have it so damn good here. And we just need to create our own drama because it entertains us, and that's what draws eyeballs. That's where the eyeballs are right now. I know people watch TV still, I guess, and shows and Netflix, but really, isn't this whole political spectrum like its own very own reality show? Like, there's characters, like you didn't even know these people like 15 years ago before social media, like Pelosi and shit. You have to be like deep into politics and watching the news all the time to really know, like Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Ted Cruz and all these guys that, have a voice now, AOC, they're all like characters. They're just characters in the show. I was like, what was that one guy? Adam Schiff, what's his name? Whatever it was. He was the guy that was doing the Trump impeachment sham. It was like, oh, here he comes. He's on now, and okay, impeachment fails, and he's been written off the show. That's how it looks to me, And then, okay, impeachment failed. Let's push the COVID thing now. Impeachment fails, COVID hits, George Floyd, all leading up to the 2020 election. Come on now. You don't have to believe it, but you have to kind of like look at the coincidences. Like, really? This is all going to kind of go down right leading up to getting Donald Trump out of the White House, who some people just really can't stand. And I'll tell you, if you read another book called, what is it called? 1984 by George Orwell. There's a whole like Orwellian thing, and there's a character in there, Goldberg. The characters have 2 minutes of hate, and this Goldberg character comes up on the screen, and he's and the people just can't control themselves. They throw things at the screen, they yell as it's just 2 minutes of just hatred at this man, and I can see this in people who absolutely hate Donald Trump. I don't see it. I don't care. I don't care if you hate him. That's fine. I just don't think that it's. I think hating somebody that heavily and that much fear gives them so much more power, and they live in your head, and it's just, it's just one of those things. I'm just like, even I don't care for our current president, Biden, but I'm not going to sit there yelling at it. And like, we give him too much credit. That's the bottom line. We give the politics way too much credit right now, and we're tearing each other all apart. It's exactly what they want, because if the further we're polarized, then we stick to that one side of government, and we don't even love that side that much, but we hate the other side even more. And that's what they want. What we should be doing is standing up for these ridiculous taxes that they've been implementing over the last 100 years, especially property tax and income taxes and everything that just these new added taxes every which way. We just kind of take it. We just feel it and just, this sucks. And we just go about it. Why aren't we rioting against this? Like, let's keep our money. Like, sorry, but let's do it. Let's get together and go against this. And that's a change that you'd like to see. Because I'm sorry, you can say what you want, but money helps and wealth helps throughout life to create experiences. It's not everything, but it's helpful. Anyways, I'm running along here. So that's my Q&A episode. I hope that went well for you. I hope I answered these questions to your fullest expectations, and I entertained you along the way, hopefully informed you a bit. I hope I didn't trigger anybody or get you upset. If you did, if you're upset with something I said, please message me. I will. You can have this as documentation right here. We're about 42 something minutes into this podcast, and you can document that. I'll respond with respect. If you have a disagreement, agreement, whatever it is, I'll hear you out. And I love the feedback. So until the next one, again, you can find me on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram at MFS Wellness. You can also email me, mike@mfswellness.com. So until we do another one, thanks to everyone who listens, and we will see you on the next episode.